30 years after Judgment Day, Los Angeles. A new hero, Jacob Rivers, emerges from the rubble, a soldier in the resistance led by John Connor. Can he defeat the Terminators? In a game made by the people who made that fucking awful Rambo game, will you, Jacob Rivers, lead the resistance to victory against Skynet and the machines? That's right, guys. A new Terminator game is here. Terminator Resistance, and now it's time. Guys, I love Terminator. I love the series, I love the world, I love the characters, I love the soundtrack. I love everything about the Terminator movies. Well, the ones that matter. The first two Terminator movies. The other ones are shit. But I have a deep love for the franchise, rooted all the way back to childhood, so I'm going to be a little bit biased. Now, this game was developed by Teon, the people who made the infamous Rambo game. Let's get that out of the way. We already did earlier, but we had to say it again. And was published by Reef Entertainment. Now, full disclosure, guys, I did receive a review key for this game from Reef Entertainment and Teon. However, I will never, ever, ever, ever alter my perception or review of a game based on the generosity of the developer or the publisher, guys. I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm going to give it to you honest. So, is Terminator Resistance a good game? You know what? I had fun. I had fun with this game, so let's talk about it. Terminator Resistance takes place 30 years after the events of Judgment Day, so the world has already gone to shit. People are dead. You know, the Resistance is in full form. However, you're a Resistance member who's part of a Resistance who gets stranded in Pasadena. You're the sole survivor of your Resistance unit, and you're trying to make your way through Pasadena, California, the rubble, the post-apocalypse, filled with Terminators, to find the Resistance in that area to join forces with them. And the realism is stunning, guys. Stunning. If you've ever been to California, it looks just like it does in real life in the game. It's a shithole. Hey, you may even be able to find your house, maybe your apartment, maybe your loved one. Brallus, what are you doing? You can't, no. Now, as you work your way through the game, you'll come across different members of said Resistance, or just members of little encampments or little towns that they have, little communities, if you will. You'll even come across a guy who looks exactly like Dr. Eli Vance from Half-Life. So, that was a little, yep. He's a nice guy, though. So, you'll meet other Resistance members. You can even find love, guys. You can find love. There's romance options in the game. And you best believe, in a post-apocalyptic universe where life hangs in the balance every day, you could wake up dead, if that's even possible. You could wake up and die. You never know when death is at your door. I f***ed everybody I could in that game, guys. Everybody. If I could, I would have f***ed Dr. Eli Vance. Now, one of the coolest bits about Terminator Resistance that I didn't expect, guys, is the depth of the story and how the character progression works with each character. So as you're out and about, you'll run in and help different characters around the world who will come back to your little base camp underground, which, by the way, looks very authentic to the movies. Very similar to when Reese from the original Terminator has that flashback dream or whatever, where it shows the people underground, the Resistance underground, and then the Terminator comes in with the little chain gun or whatever and starts blowing everybody up. It's very similar to that. So it's got that creepy, weird, dirty underground but poor atmosphere. It's very authentic. Now, when you meet these people around the world, you'll bring them back to your home base, and then if you continue talking to them, they have like a sort of a respect meter or so. If you talk to them about their personal story, or you help them out with individual side quests that they give you, which basically are fetch quests, go when you're out and about doing your main mission in an open-ended area, go over here and hit a button or pick something up, like a memento. There's this one point where you get a dog for a kid, and the kid's relationship improves, which improves his sister's relationship with you, who I f***ed, by the way. And all these stories and all these relationships matter, because by the end of the game, and there's no spoilers here, guys, there are multiple endings for this game, depending on the relationships that you've built. Now, this is something that the reviewers that I've been looking at have not been talking about. I said, let me look into this. Now, almost every mainstream review I've read about Terminator Resistance was complaining about something that's either in the game and in there for a reason, or that's completely fabricated or just blown out of proportion. Let's take, for example, Games Radar's review of Terminator Resistance. They say it's the best Terminator game of all time and the worst game I played all year. F*** off. In their review, they complain about how the Terminators go down so easy and how you could just take them out like nothing compared to like the movies, the first Terminator, where essentially the T-800 machine was a f***ing tank. Now, I would see the logic in that complaint except for the fact that they are wrong because the Terminators in this game are immune to regular lead bullets, and they can only be taken out with plasma rifles. Now, do you guys remember any plasma rifles being in the Terminator movies? I'll wait. Do you remember Kyle Reese or Sarah Connor or even John Connor or even the fucking Terminator in Terminator 2 using a plasma rifle versus a T-1000? No, you don't, because it didn't happen. Now, what does that have to do with this Terminator game? Well, this takes place 30 years after Judgment Day, and this takes place in present day where everybody's using plasma rifles because they're effective against Terminators. So yeah, essentially, these plasma rifles are most effective versus Terminators, so that's why they go down easily. Now, it doesn't mean they go down like a bunch of ads from League of Legends. No, these T-800 machines and all the other machines that you fight against can take a fucking beating. They can take a pounding. And in groups together, they're lethal. You could die pretty quick in this game. Now let's look at IGN's review. Oh, good old IGN. They've never lied in their review, right? They've always told the truth. They finished every game they played. They give it a 4 out of 10. A 4 out of 10? F off. Are you crazy? Are you off your fucking meds? This game is not a 4 out of 10. And upon reading their review, their small, short 7 or 8 paragraph review where they just grazed over the game. They probably didn't even complete the game. It reads like a review that was written by somebody else behind you, whispering in your ear what their experience was with the game. Like their friend played through the game and was telling them exactly their experience, and then they just wrote it down and called it a review and published it, which is probably what they did. What do these people expect? I'll tell you what they expect. They expect every game to be like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Destiny or some other type of live service experience because that's what pays their bills. It's not the small developer, the small-time developer who got licensed to something really cool and wants to put their heart and soul into a game. It's about keeping the revenue flowing because that's what makes them money. They want big explosions and microtransactions and pay-to-win mechanics. They want all that shit because that's what gets them clicks on their articles. And reading their reviews of this game before I played and reviewed this game, it made me like this game even more because I appreciate it more. I appreciate where it's coming from and that Teon is putting all of their resources and all of their heart and soul into making a good, solid first-person shooter with the assets they're given. They don't have those giant marketing budgets or those giant production budgets that EA or Activision provides them or some massive publisher. Reef Entertainment isn't a massive publisher, guys. So they work with what they were given, and with what they were given, they did a pretty good job. Anyways, let's dive into this shit almost 6 minutes later. Let's talk about the graphics. So the graphics, they get the job done. It's nothing to write home about, nothing to get super excited about. I mean, it's not a bad-looking game, and it's not a great-looking game. The environments are a mix of linear, so just corridor maps, and then there are open-world segments. So there are multiple open-world segments in the game where you can explore, you can run around, you scavenge as well, so there's different materials you can find around the world that you use to craft. There's a crafting bench. There's a whole lot of depth in this game that's not covered in these reviews, which is infuriating. You can find trade resources around the world, so you're encouraged to scavenge because you use the money to go to trading outposts in these different camps, and you can upgrade your guns, you can buy new guns, new materials, you know, make pipe bombs yourself or buy pipe bombs or grenades, things like that. The textures are good. There was a film grain, like a heavy film grain on the screen that I had to turn off because it would just... So once I turned that off, the game looked pretty good. I mean, it ran very well on my GTX 1080 Ti, 32 gigs RAM. I didn't have any stutters. I had one crash the entire time, and that was when I was quitting the damper my experience very much. I was getting a very smooth, buttery 60 plus frames per second running on 4K with everything set to high, or I'm sorry, ultra, and most things set to high. So it was pretty good. Now, sound design. Now, here's one of my favorite parts of the game, guys, the sound. You get those authentic Terminator sounds. You get the sound of the soundtrack, guys. The soundtrack is probably one of the best aspects of the sound design in this game. The soundtrack bumps. It meshes so well with the game, and you get like this not cyberpunk, but like retro wave 80s, but mixed with current dark melotone melodies with like some pounding drums in the background, like the dun 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 dun. And oh man, when the Terminators are around and you're in the earlier levels and you don't have the weapons to take them out yet, and you have to sneak around, it's got like that weird pulsing like horror sound that you hear in the movies when the Terminator's around or he's about to kill somebody. It's f***ing terrifying.
Don't just stand there! Run!
Now the gun sounds are just as good, guys. I mean, you get your assault rifle, your pistol, and whatnot, but as you progress through the game, you start getting better weapons. You get the plasma rifles. And a lot of people were complaining that, especially in the reviews, that it wasn't authentic because the Terminators and the people, the Resistance members in the movies use purple lasers. Now, if they had played through the entire game, they would have seen why you start out with red laser guns, red laser plasma beams, and then you eventually get the purple beams. You eventually get the purple plasma beams. The purple plasma rifles are the more upgraded ones, like the late game ones. And there's a reason for that. It was for the gameplay aspects. Now, the guns sound brilliant. They sound excellent. They sound meaty. When you're mowing down Terminators with one of your many different plasma rifles, you get that authentic Terminator laser sound. Now, the voice acting was kind of shit. There were some characters that handled their roles very well. Jennifer being my favorite because, oh, Jennifer. Jessica Barron also did a very good job. She was a badass, Jessica Barron. She was a fucking badass. She was like the Sarah Connor of this game. Just a hardcore femme fatale killing machine. Old lady Erin did a good job from The Shelter. She was pretty good. Dr. Eli Vance, he was kind of shit. Gameplay wise is where I had a lot of fun and where a lot of people were complaining. They were saying the game was boring. They were saying that it was just repetitive, and I didn't find it like that at all. It took me about 10 hours to complete. And as I was exploring these worlds, I was running into different characters. I was running into different types of machines. There are some large epic scale battles that you get as well. There's several of them actually, where all hell is breaking loose, and it's you and the Resistance versus a army of Terminators and massive enemies and whatnot, which I won't show for spoiler's sake. But there are multiple different ways you can play. You can play stealthily. You can just go in guns blazing. Which why would you want to play stealthily in a Terminator game? I mean, you get like the stealth knife called like the Terminator knife or something, and you can one-shot Terminators in the back with it because it's an electric knife. And I think I did that twice and was like, fuck it. And then I took out my machine gun, my minigun, and I just started mowing motherfuckers down. Because why wouldn't you? It's a Terminator game. That's what a Terminator's about. It's about explosions and gunfire. It's about having your balls in your left hand and then your minigun in your right hand. Now, when playing stealthily, the AI is kind of shit, which is kind of unfortunate for a game that's about you fighting AI. Like, there was a couple points where I was literally standing there and you hit V to toggle your night vision goggles or whatever you're playing on, controller. I don't know what the key is because I played on mouse and keyboard because PC Master Race. But you get these like X-ray vision goggles, which I was kind of like because I don't really like X-ray vision. I think it's kind of a cheap mechanic, but it allows you to see the highlights of the Terminators through the walls, so you can kind of sneak around them, which I thought kind of eliminated the challenge. I would have liked a lean mechanic instead, like lean around the corner and you can see them real quick before they spot you. But I had Terminators actually walking up to me, and where I was literally most likely in their peripheral vision, especially for an advanced AI that took over the entire fucking world. You would expect them to actually see you or hear you or something, but they kind of just stood there blindly and just turned around and walked away. And I was like, all right. They do just walk at you when you're shooting them, which is kind of a bummer. I would have liked to see them maybe running around a little bit more, like Arnold Schwarzenegger does, like when he hops onto the semi-truck in T2, like when he starts lighting up T-1000 in the semi-truck and causes him to crash. I thought that would have been pretty cool, but no, they just walk at you blindly and fire at you, which is kind of unfortunate, and they do a lot of damage. It doesn't take that much damage to die in this game, but playing stealthily, I wouldn't recommend. You're not really going to have a good time. I would just go in guns blazing. You get plenty of ammo. The game is kind of piss easy. I played it on normal at first, and I had to ramp it up to hard. And in order to get at least a little bit of a challenge out of it, I kept it at hard. I didn't ramp it up any higher because what I could see was the difficulty setting was basically how much damage you take. And so I didn't feel like getting, killed within one shot. So I kept it at hard, and it was a decent challenge, especially later on. But at first it was kind of piss easy, so I would recommend playing this on hard. I did have a lot of fun playing the game. That's the most important part, guys, is through this 10-hour journey, did I have fun? If I'd paid the money, would I have had fun? Answer is yes, I had a lot of fun. I had fun with the different gameplay types. I had fun traversing the different worlds and seeing like a post-apocalyptic LA. Never once during my 10-hour playthrough was I bored. Did I check my phone because I wanted to check social media or whatever? It was genuinely a good game. And here's the part that I can really appreciate. Teon made Rambo. We'll never forget that. That is a stain on their record, right? Now, this game is a night and day difference from Rambo. This is a full-on first-person shooter on a small AA, maybe less budget. And what they did with that budget was, in the license, was the best they could possibly deliver for what they were given, and I can appreciate that because this was genuinely a good game. This isn't a 10 out of 10. This isn't a fucking 4 out of 10, guys. If I had to rate it myself, it would be a solid 7.5, and that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It doesn't mean it's an amazing game. It means it's a good, solid first-person shooter with the Terminator license. So if you guys like Terminator, if you enjoy the Terminator license, the Terminator world, the series, you're going to enjoy this game. If you enjoy a good, solid first-person shooter that just works, that cuts out all the bullshit, you're going to enjoy it. Now, there are no microtransactions. There's no day one DLCs. You get what you pay for, which is a good, solid 10-hour experience with multiple endings, an immersive, terrifying soundtrack, and a lot of callbacks to the series and to the movie's roots. Now, would I recommend it for $60? That's tough, because if you're a massive hardcore Terminator fan, you got the money to spend, I would say go ahead and pick it up. You know, you're gonna have a good time. If you're short on cash and you don't really care too much for the license, I would say wait for a sale. But that is my one man's take on Terminator Resistance. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Great 10-hour experience. I would play it again just to see the multiple endings, and I will at some point. So if you're thinking about picking it up, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you already picked it up. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you on the next Talk Gaming review.